Welcome to The American Spectacle, a podcast dedicated to the art of American dance, exploring the past, present, and future of dance, and discussing ways to re-engage communities, young people, in the most American of all arts, dance.
Before we begin, what if one drink could carry the weight of a lifetime? The Dressing Drink, a memoir by Thomas King Flagg, peels back the layers of an orphan's legacy, blending beauty, heartbreak, and hard truths into one unforgettable story. The Dressing Drink, available now wherever books are sold.
Hi, hello. I'm Thomas Flagg, the host of American Spectacle. I'm a longtime supporter and arts advocate of the art of dance. Today, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to my friend and longtime collaborator, Michelle Audet. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Tom.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You look great. Thank you for coming down in the middle of the hurricane.
Yes. Well, the winds brought me here. The winds of change brought me here. It's important to be here. Yes. Thank you.
So our relationship goes back into the Paleolithic age, which means I went to college with Michelle, and then I went off in my strange direction, and Michelle just shot up to stardom. What happened to you? In that little space of time of probably, was it 4, maybe 5 years, you went from creating your own syllabus, your own arts
administration. Yes, I created the first arts administration degree at Skidmore.
At Skidmore College in Saratoga,
in Saratoga
New York.
Springs.
Also home of the Saratoga Performing Arts Center.
Which was the summer home of the New York City Ballet.
Here we go.
And here we go. Now, so the first, you wanted to know what I went from school on, or you want me to?
I just want you to say, and so you worked at SPAC, and then you did a little, and then you did a little, and boom.
Yes. Well, I think that first of all, getting to go to Skidmore was a miracle. It turned out to be just the right place. And then being able to stay in Saratoga and work at the Performing Arts Center there was extraordinary.
It was a hotbed then.
It was
real hotbed.
Very much. And so the opportunity for me was that, I've got long stories, but I'm to keep the college story short.
Okay.
And that is that I when I decided to go to school, I thought, I'll go into psychology or something. And I'd done a lot of theater and I'd danced and that kind of thing. And I thought, but that probably wasn't going to be the profession. But then I took a course in arts administration, and I said, oh my goodness, there are people who need to be producers, who need to be the teachers, who need to be the ones who organize how to do all of this. So I thought, I can do that. That I can do. And so then I designed my own degree program and then worked at Saratoga Performing Arts Center in order to do internships and apprenticeships and to learn how to do it with the organization itself.
But I love that story you tell when you were just 3 or 4 years old, when you saw New York City Ballet and the question you asked.
What a wonderful, this was, the magic moment in one's life when you find out what your dream's going to be. And so my parents, God bless them, took me to see the New York City Ballet performance of the Firebird. Maria Tallchief was dancing. It's Stravinsky's.
Who was Maria?
Maria Tallchief was the first Native American ballerina, professional ballerina. She was extraordinary, absolutely beautiful and magical.
And then, of course, Balanchine partnered a great deal with Stravinsky.
Yes, very much so.
And he was one of the real elevators of Stravinsky
very
to
much
a
so.
Crossover audience.
Yes, very much so. And it's a glorious, wonderfully colorful performance. It's magical in its storytelling. And of course, the mood that the music creates is it's just, I get chills when I think about it. I still get chills. And it was at the end of the performance, as I was standing in the last row of the orchestra, and I stood up and I'm like, this is so amazing. We get in the car and I said, Mom, who makes this possible?
I love that quote. Who makes this possible?
Who makes it? It wasn't like, can I dance? It was just, who makes all of this possible?
Right.
And she said, his name is George Balanchine. I said, Mom, when we get home, will you show me how to write his name? So I knew how to write my name, and George Balanchine
Ah.
at the age of 3. So I thought, okay, I have to find out what I can do about this. So of course I started taking dance classes and I followed everything that he did. And I thought this is what I wanted. More than anything else, I wanted to dance for George Balanchine. Well, as you know, fate has it, I had an accident and broke my back and there was no more dancing.
Mm.
And part of what occurred with that is that still the memory of what it meant for me to be in the audience was so strong that I thought, okay, what is it that I can do? What do I remember? And what can I do to make sure that other people get the opportunity? Really get the opportunity to have that moment that says, this is what I want to do with my life. And so that is kind of how it all began. When that happened, I was in the Lincoln Center, and the New York State Theater opened in 1964.
64.
Yeah, I know, right? And my mom, again, took me to the ballet, and I had this extraordinary, again, out-of-body experience. I'm watching Eddie Villela, Patty McBride, they're dancing. It was just extraordinary.
Sounds like Tarantella.
No, I think it was, it could have been.
Yes.
Yes. And I went out on the balcony. I was looking at the fountain, and I heard a voice, and I thought, and the voice said, "Remember that when you come back, this is your home." And I looked around and I thought, who is saying this? I don't see anybody standing near me, and yet there was something about. And again, I got those chills, and I thought, okay. This is good. This is good to know. Okay. Life goes on, and I go to Skidmore, and Saratoga Springs is the summer home of the New York City Ballet. And so I get to see my hero teaching Coppelia with Danilova, Madame Danilova, on the stage. And I thought, this is, it's like little dreams come true. Dreams do come true if you keep focusing on them. And I thought, in the karmic aspect of how it all works out. So I was working with them, I was meeting the dancers, and I just thought, there's some way I've just got to get to New York. I've got to find a way. When I finished my program there and I came home, I got a call from an employment agency that said, "We have a job in New York. Would you like it?" And I said, "Yes." And so it was for the City Center of Music and Drama, which was the original home base of the New York City Ballet. And after 6 weeks of answering the phone and watching the elevator doors open and close, I said, I think maybe I could do more than this. And they said, well, what would you like to do? And I said, I'd like to be the assistant director of education, if you don't mind. And they said, okay, that'd be fine. That would be fine. And I said, okay. And that was how it began. And it was for both the New York City Ballet and the New York City Opera. And programs started, and I learned everything that I could possibly learn, and put my degree into work. I went to work. I learned how to do this, and so what occurred was that there was an incident, and then they had to dissolve this particular program, and so I went to Betty Cage and said, I think there ought to be a New York City Ballet education department, and they said, Well, but we already have. I said, no, I mean, its own. And so they said, well, come back in a week with a proposal, which I did. And they said, okay, let's do it. Let's make the New York City. So I'm the founding director of the New York City Ballet Education Department.
And as I think about how important performance is, how important producing the big picture is, the aspect of education, especially in America, in New York, at that time, is mind-blowing. Because if you don't educate properly the next generation, you got no go.
And during the 70s, there was a massive education emptiness. All the arts programs had been cut. The budgets had been cut. There were so many problems that at that particular time, the arts organizations themselves said, well, if music's not going to be taught in the schools, if art's not going to be taught in the schools, then we're going to become the teachers. And so the Carnegie Halls and the New York Philharmonic and New York City Ballet and the New York City Opera all said, then the arts organizations will become.
Wow.
We will provide the education, the arts education. And so that whole sort of sensibility began. And what was an extraordinary aspect for me was that when this was happening, I became part of that community. And I get a call, so I did become, I said that part. Sorry. So I get a call from Barbara Horgan, who was Mr. Balanchine's assistant, and said Mr. Balanchine would like to meet with you. He'd like to start a public school program. I said, oh, okay, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. So before that meeting happened, I did all the research I could, because I do all the research, and I talked to how do schools get to where they, how do they literally get this big, school district? How do they get to where we want them to go? What's the time frame?
Logistics.
What are the logistics of all of this? And what's the best length of time? What's the best time of day? And I did all that. And so I was supposed to meet with Mr. Balanchine, and I did my hair and I got all dressed up. I was all set and ready to go. And then I got a call saying he can't meet you. He's got emergency rehearsal. I said, okay, fine. So the next day I went in. It was raining. It was Friday. I was relaxed. They said, can you be here in 5 minutes? Yes. Okay. The conversation, and it goes back to what I talked about in Saratoga, when I was in Saratoga, was that Mr. Balanchine did want to invite a theater full of kids, New York City's public school children, to come and see Coppelia. And I said, that's a wonderful ballet, and it's a great story. But it's 3 acts. It's 2.5. It's a little long.
It's a little long.
And so we're having this kind of listening, and he said, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I think this. And I said, well, it's a little long. He said, well, we could keep the curtain up during intermission, and we could do this. And then I said, perhaps the best thing to do is to do an hour-long program with a host and do different kind of repertory. And he looked at me. It was like, I don't know, having not worked with him before, how often somebody said, maybe your idea is not going to work. And he said, ever. And I thought, well, but this is what I found out. And so I want it to be the best experience possible. And he said, okay. So anyway, I tell him, I said, I think it should be an hour. I think it should be hosted. All of those things that I just mentioned. And he's looking, he used to, looking down, he said, you are right. We're going to do it your way.
Nice.
Let's talk repertory. And that was the beginning. And the show was created in that meeting. It was called Ballet for Young People. And it was an hour-long show. And it
was pioneering.
It was absolutely it was really, really, truly wonderful. And, he said, well, you need a host. Let's get Mork. I said, Mork. Robin Williams of Mork and Mindy. And they tried, and he was not available. And then he said, what about Big Bird from...
Big Bird.
He's
busy. He's flown the coop.
He also... Because we had 3 months to put this thing together, and so people were not available. And it turned out to be the wonderful Jacques d'Amboise became the host. He was extraordinary with children and bringing people up on stage and getting everybody involved.
And then moving into NDI and creating a model of dance education unparalleled.
He was doing that in rehearsal at the time. I remember watching police officers dancing in the studio, right? Yep. So it was, so the day came. And so the other part of it was that in these education programs, there's often a cost, or it's free, or it's, how do you get the commitment that you have a contract? And I said, the value of something, people don't value things that are free.
That's for sure.
But the performance will be free as long as the teachers whose classes will be selected to come honor that contract by coming to an orientation session. Because there's a whole program. There's the pre-performance. There's workshops to do.
Educate the educators.
Exactly. And then how are we going to do this and how it's going to work? And there were people who said, Well, they didn't show up for the workshop, but so I said, well, I'm sorry, you've been replaced. Because this was the contract, this was the agreement, this is the value. This is very special. On the morning, Lincoln Center, surrounded in yellow school buses, 2,500 school children coming to Lincoln Center, prepared by their teachers for they don't know what, because they've never been to the theater. They've never seen a performance before. They come into the theater and they behave so wonderfully and beautifully, and they sit down and there's chit-chat and there's chatter and there's all that going on. And as the program was about to begin, I'm standing I'm standing in the audience in the house with Mr. Balanchine and Lincoln Kirstein. House lights go down. And the other lights go down. Oh, the whole 2,500 children's voices just exclaiming the wonder of it before the curtain even goes up.
And then?
And then the curtain went up and they were like, oh! And the sound was extraordinary. And I looked at Mr. Balanchine and he looked at me, and there was one thing he did if he approved. He went, gave me the nod. And Lincoln, and I thought, this is it. And then the magic and the magic began. It was an hour-long performance of perfection, and those children danced out of the theater.
And I've had a similar experience, and with what we have, Positive Energy Arts, and the name of this show is American Spectacle. What you've just described is a spectacle, not only of performance, but of education, especially for children. Mm-hmm. Now, let's turn it around. What if we did that same thing today? How would that go? So there's what you're really referring to as innocence. There's an innocence of a child that goes, oh, but now I wonder what kind of reaction would come forth.
Well, I think times have certainly changed, and we live in a digital world, and we live in a world where the access to everything is different. But there is nothing stronger than the live performance.
That's it.
Nothing stronger. Yeah. The energy
lightning rods to God.
That it's truly, you've got to be in the space. You've got to feel that aesthetic experience. You've got to feel the emotion, the kinesthetic aspect of it, your eyes, your ears, your heart.
Energy.
All that energy. That energy is so critically important. I know it changed my life at the age of 3 to feel that and to remember it always. And it is, after a while, we did, because what I wanted to say, part of it was the day after the first Ballet for Young People, I got a call. And he said, Mr. Balanchine wants another one. You have 6 months. And so in the first year and a half that I was there, we did 2 of these Ballet for Young People. And it sets the stage for the live interaction in the theater, but then you also go and take it into the workshops. You take it into the gyms. You take it into the lunchrooms. We did performances in lunchrooms, lecture demonstrations in lunchrooms.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
And it was extraordinary. I want to talk about the education of the performers as well, because if the School of American Ballet is the training academy of the New York City Ballet, and the lecture demonstration program that the New York City Ballet Education Department produced used this wonderful dancers, the students at the School of American Ballet. So they were from like 14 years old to 18 years old. And they were taught, they were given a script, they hosted their own programs in the schools. And what they learned was how to talk about what they did that didn't involve talking. So there was, again, that all-around ability to express what it feels like to dance and to communicate and to perform in some difficult places and with an audience of kids who were like, I don't want to, the boys are like, I don't want to watch any of this. It's wearing tights, yikes. And what I've been told lately is that so many of those dancers that I worked with are now artistic directors. of the ballet companies. And education is a primary, consummate center point for everything that they do, for community programs, for school programs, for family matinees, for however else. They all know the incredible importance of being able to bring that community together in an opportunity to say, let's see the magic happen for you.
I think you bring up the point of any concert dance company, theater company, music company must have inextricably linked to them an education component.
Yes.
And then that translates to an audience development program at the same time. But there has to be this continuing education, understanding, intimacy of being able to see what it is. For years, I went to the ballet and I was like, yeah. And then one day I got it and I went, wow. But I thought but it does take a long time. It is a highly tuned instrument, a European art form. And you sort of wonder, but once you understand and it goes click, you go, oh. But that took time and education. It wasn't like I could watch tap dancing and get it right away. But how many fouettes, how many this, how many that. Oh, and you learn what it takes to become that proficient. But I want to get back to what you started off with. Who makes this possible? How do you make this possible? Certainly, you've been doing that for the last years, working as an arts administrator par excellence, for every aspect of producing a show. You have been involved in, whether that's development, whether that's executive directing, whether that's
producing, writing the scripts,
all of that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well,
how important that is. And here we are in Melbourne, and we're trying to make Melbourne City into Dance City.
Okay.
How could we go about that?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first thing is you have to bring in really fine dancers who communicate through the movement and the music, but also speak and teach in that regard. And that interaction that happens at whatever level it is, whether you're in the gym of a school, of which I spent many, many years with those dancers, working with those children, and creating curriculum that the classroom teachers can teach. And so I'll give you an example. We created a curriculum called Storytelling Through Dance. And it was integrated into the 4th and 5th grade curriculums of schools all around New York and even in Athens, Georgia, which that's a whole other story in itself about what that did to that community. But the idea is that you take what you have, and those are your classroom teachers and your kids, and then you talk about how do you tell a story? What does a story? What are the words of the story? So what do those words feel like? Show me what it feels like. What does it mean to be happy? What does it mean to feel small? What does it mean? What is, all of those things that a child can express if they feel safe in that room. And then to be able to write a story and say, I want to tell this story, and it's going to move this way, and I'm going to choose this music. And it gets written, and it gets moved, and it gets performed, and then it gets talked about, so that you come full circle of the educational process. And that educational process is you see it and you're inspired. You think about what it is you want to say. You feel the safety of the expression. And in that safety of the expression comes a freedom and a courage and a bravery of saying, this is who I am. I can tell you my story. And it's wonderful to see. And okay, sorry, my mind just went into about 100 different places. All right. Because suddenly I was
I'm
like,
I'm going to ask
me
you
another
the question.
Yeah,
the question is, so you've just described a fantastic program, and I get it, and I can see it, and I can feel it. How does it come to be? Money. Well, money is a huge. Who are the funders? Who are the supporters? How do you inspire someone who has resources to say, oh, I am, you just inspired me. Like, I'd pay for whatever that was. But that is the component that there used to be an enormous amount of money that was dedicated to the arts. Now, a lot of that money has gone away or segued into other places that are not so great. Children in general are now more at risk than they ever have been in history. And terrible things are happening to children. I just came back from Ireland. Wonderful things are happening to those children. Wonderful things. But I don't see that here anymore. So how do we tell people about this and get their support and their enthusiasm?
Well, there's a couple of, and you're specifically talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a combination of things and the resources, which is going into the school systems and to look at what your demographics are. Do you have, is it private schools? Are they religious-based schools? Are they public schools? And just get your demographics.
Right.
Then find out who's in charge of what's being taught in schools, because there's issues with book banning. There's issues with all kinds of, we don't want that because that, for whatever reason. So you have to find out where you stand and then find out how you get in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here in Florida, this is the Space Coast.
It is the Space Coast.
And so, of course, there's all kinds of wonderful ways to include the study of this community and what's important to them and important to the rest of the world, frankly, the energy of the universe and space exploration. And
isn't that a wonderful idea? Isn't that wonderful?
It's so extraordinary.
So the syllabus is based on the exploration of the galaxy.
Exactly.
And you bring it right down into the classroom.
Exactly. You bring, so that the parents, exactly. So you've got, if the parents are working in this field, if this is what supports the community, and if these are the children who are growing up in this environment, and that they understand how important it is to move, to paint, to sing, to express, so that, we don't become little digital objects sitting at our computers looking at the screen all the time. It is critically important for intelligence.
Absolutely.
And emotion and critical thinking and self-respect to be able to get up and move. So that I think that conversation that happens in a community like this is with your theaters, with your dance companies, with your music companies, your symphonies, all of your different arts organizations has a way of saying, we want to be able to provide these critical theatrical performances integrated into the school systems. Now, in some places that I worked, it's after-school programs. Other places who are willing to try a much more integrated curriculum will accept the opportunity to do it within their own, I'd say, I'll just pick 4th and 5th grade classes. But you have to, again, the research, what's your demographic? What have they got already? And what are they interested in doing? And then you get the parents involved. And the parents in the community that says, I think this would be incredible for my kids.
Sure. Well, who wouldn't?
Right? Who
well,
would?
So this is one of the largest employers of aeronautical engineers probably in the world, in probably 20 square miles. Well, there you go. If that's not organic, if that's not organic about the kids, it's a wonderful idea.
If you don't caricature, make sure that the scientists are because some people are like, oh, scientists are non-feeling. It's all about numbers. It's all about this. It's all about that. It's about creativity.
About this.
It's about problem solving.
Yes.
It's about being able to say, wait, we have a problem here. What if we imagined XYZ? What if it felt like this? Or whatever it is, that added intelligence, that added compassion for finding the answers to solutions comes from movement, comes from freedom. It's not about restricting. It's not about saying, no, you can't read that, or no, you can't do that, or no, you can't listen to that music, or whatever. It's about saying, all right, let's see what we think about this. Let's see how we feel about this. And you may choose, well, that's not for me. That's fine. But the opportunity to choose to do it is critical.
And inspire.
To not have the choice to do it.
That's a problem.
That's criminal. That's criminal. So it is about the inspiration of it. And again, I always go back to my own experience. because that inspiration shaped my entire life.
As did mine
Yeah.
in a different way. But now we've gone all the way from
Mhm.
1964 and the beginning of Lincoln Center to today.
Mhm.
And look what we've accomplished in an hour. Isn't it amazing?
It's-
I think we've solved some, but I really appreciate, first of all, you coming here
Mhm.
under duress, under weather, under storm, so that we could really try to, I guess, cement, but so we have a history now on camera
Mhm.
of talking about all the things we've talked about for
Mhm.
so many years. We've documented. I think finally we're bringing some closure to the many years we've had together
Mhm.
and the legacy that goes with it. You've affected thousands of kids. So I so appreciate you being here. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I love the fact that we've been friends forever.
And we shall be.
And we continue
And
to
we
be.
continue
Yes.
to be. We're still kicking. If you enjoyed today's episode, please join us for upcoming podcasts, where we'll speak to some of the most consequential voices in the dance world. For more information, you can go to my website, thomaskflagg.com. In addition, you can find me on all social media platforms. If you want to learn more about me and my unique journey, please check out my book, The Dressing Drink. It chronicles my early life and efforts to better understand my parents, both entertainers in their own right. I'm Thomas Flagg, and thank you for joining us today.